Welcome to Podcast, the Business of Dentistry podcast, brought to you by Practice Plan. Podcast delivers the best business advice, real-life stories, and practical hints and tips to make your practice a more profitable and sustainable business. And now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to today's episode of Podcast. I'm Kelly Barnard, Communications Coordinator at Practice Plan, and today I'm joined by Barry Oulton. Hi, Barry.
Hi.
Today we are going to talk about communication.
Yes.
But before we do, I wonder if you could just introduce yourself and give a little bit of background to our listeners, please.
Sure. So I'm Barry Oulton, I'm a dentist. I've run and owned my own dental practice down in Hazelmere, which is south of Guildford, for just under 20 years. And I launched my new company, which is a sales and communication training company called the Confident Dentist Academy.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. Okay. So communication. We communicate on a daily basis and everybody thinks it comes naturally, but it's a little bit more complicated than that if you want it to really work for you, isn't it?
I think we do it day in, day out. And I think there are things that we can learn and understand that helps us to do it better. Because in essence, communication is the imparting and passing of information, which we do. You know, we're doing that now.
We are.
But we do that with our patients, with our loved ones. And actually, there are ways that we can understand how we communicate and how people receive information that will help us to make sure that our message is better received and understood.
So within a dental practice, we're talking about communicating with your team or communicating with your patients or both?
Both, everything. Actually, also, oddly, communicating with yourself is understanding, how you process information and therefore how you're communicating with yourself. And mostly, therefore, how you're then communicating with your patients and your staff. Okay.
So you talk about a particular communication model.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. So we communicate with three things. We communicate with our words, with the tonality of our words, and with our body language, our physiology. And when I first really started to learn communication, maybe 20 years ago, I thought that the words were the most important thing. Building rapport back in those days was really about finding commonality with the words that I was using, asking people, are you married? And if they said no, I was like, oh no, what do I do next? So actually, I thought the words were hugely important. What we now know from Morabian's study is that they're only important to the level of about 7%.
7%?
Yeah.
Really?
And the tonality of our words are much more important than the words that we're using. So tonality is about 38%. So if I said to you, you got a lovely blouse, and if I said to you, that's a really nice blouse, you'd probably go, oh, thank you very much. But if I went, nice blouse, you would get a completely different meaning from that, because all I did was to change the tone and the way it was delivered. So if I say, naughty boy, you might think that he's been told off. If I say naughty boy, that's a completely different intonation, right? So tonality is hugely important. And then the third element is body language. Body language is about 55%. And we speak with our bodies. So that means that almost 93% of our communication is non-verbal. It's not the words that we're using, it's how we deliver the words and the tonality of our words. So we talk about things being congruent. Congruent means making sure that the message is delivered in the way that you want it to be. So if I look at you and say, yeah, I love you, you clearly know that my words say I love you, but my body language and my tone, say that I don't. Well, if we want to communicate clearly to anybody, whether it's a loved one or patients, you want to make sure that the communication is congruent. So you want to make sure that your tonality and your body language is matching the words that you're using, because the words are not as important as we think they are.
So with that in mind, are there things that you can do to train yourself to make sure that you are meaning what you say and people believe that you're saying what you mean, you're meaning what you say? Is there a way we can prepare ourselves for that, stopping and thinking? Or
Yeah, I think it's just being more consciously aware of what our communication is, because the bottom line is you know this already. Mm-hmm. The fact that I might be making you consciously aware of it doesn't mean to say you didn't already know it, because actually if you walk into the front door at home and you know instantly from body language whether your partner is not happy or not. We know this. We look and go, are you okay? And they turn around and go, yeah, I'm fine. The tonality, the body language says they're not fine. So we know this. So actually, it's just being conscious of this and making sure that when you're communicating, you're making sure that your tonality and your physiology is aligned with the words that you're using. So it's practice. And it's also beginning to recognize it consciously when other people are doing it.
So how does all this translate into a dental setting? So you're a practice owner or a dentist, you're with patients, you're with your team. How does this translate?
How does it translate? The bottom line is this is what we do day in, day out. And so really the translation is not so much a translation. It's more just being aware of how we communicate, being aware of how we process information, and being aware of how we can impact people. But also so in NLP, we have these things that we call presuppositions. Mm-hmm. Presupposition is just a fancy word for a belief. We believe that this is the case, so we presuppose something. One of the presuppositions is that the quality of your communication is dictated by the response that you get. So just because words come out of my mouth and I communicate with you, it is actually my responsibility to ensure that you are understanding the message that I would like you to understand.
And I suppose that's more complicated in a dental setting if you've got a very nervous patient who's already on edge and perhaps not concentrating entirely on what you're saying because they're frightened and they're afraid. That you must really have to think about that and ensure.
So it's interesting because actually we will go through a whole process which is very quick to ensure that our patients are not nervous and not anxious. So we build rapport with our patients.
Yes.
And then we'll match and mirror them and be more like them, and then we can actually help them to be in a situation where they're not nervous and they're not worried. Because the last thing I want to do is communicate with a patient when they're not in a good state.
No.
What I want to do is communicate with them when they're in a good state and they're able to receive that information, so that I can ensure that they've got all of the choices, all of the options, and they fully understand it. So if somebody's nervous and anxious, I'll make sure that I'm doing my level best to help them be out of that state into a better state before I give them any, decent information or discuss any treatment.
So kind of gentle coaxing and talking to them about something else, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as, our emotional state is really created by what we're focusing on. And the way we process information is that we think in either pictures, sounds, or movies. So if I say to you, can you remember the last time you rode a bike? Okay, so I know that actually what you just did is that you recalled a picture or a movie.
Yeah, that's
and then
true.
Actually you had a little feeling about it.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Okay, well I know that from your eye scan pattern. So I looked at your eyes, know where your eyes went, so I know you pictured something, you recalled it, then actually you pictured something and created a picture, and then you actually went down and felt something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. You're looking at me funny now. So we have a picture, a sound, or a movie in our head. That's called our internal representation. We have that about anything that's going on, and we have them all the time, constantly. That affects our emotion. So you had a picture, you created another picture, you had a little feeling, and then actually that feeling then created a state. It was probably a happy memory.
It was.
Right. So you have that emotional state. So if I have a patient that comes in and they look nervous, what they're probably thinking about is something that isn't going to occur, which is a bad experience with a dentist, or they're having a memory of a bad experience, or they're having a memory of somebody else's bad experience. So rather than, spending ages, one of the things I'll do maybe is just ask them, because I've been there 20 years, so my patients are generally, we're friends. It's a business friendship, but we're friends and I know them well. New patients, I'll just ask, when was the last time, so I'll do it with you, when was the last time you went on holiday?
Right, okay, so you're taking their mind off things.
So when was the last time you went on holiday?
I'm going on holiday on
Are
Sunday,
you?
which is all I can think about.
Fantastic. Where are you going?
I'm going to Cornwall.
Cornwall. Oh, beautiful. You've been there before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of
What did you like the best?
It's just so beautiful. The beaches are absolutely lovely. It's just a
They are,
fantastic
aren't they?
part of the
Stunning.
country.
So, by simply asking you about something that you can relate to as being happy, you are now not nervous, anxious and worried. You're in a different state. So you can very quickly help somebody by changing their focus of attention. And now you're in a position where I can go, right, I'm going to look after you today. We're going to do some treatment on that lower left 6, and I'm going to make sure that everything I do is completely comfortable. And you're in control. Anytime you want me to stop, if you just want to relax for a minute, that's great. I'll just make sure that we look after you and everything's comfy. How's that sound?
Yep, I feel very relaxed.
So it's actually very easy. It's just knowing that we're creating, by me talking to you, you're creating a picture, a sound, or a movie. My job is to help you create the most positive picture, sound, or movie, which then affects your emotional state, and then you're in a position where I can communicate with you better.
And that obviously works with the team as well, when you're in team meetings and when you're planning for the future of your practice and gathering people together.
Yeah, we talk about mindset. So your mindset is really what you're focusing on. So we do an exercise in our training course where mindset is almost like a pair of glasses. So my trainer, my coach, is married and his wife's called Kayla. And she was driving down the OC highway in California, and she literally pulled the car over because she said the sunset was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. And she started taking photographs of it. She phoned her sister, and her sister answered. She said, "You've got to come outside and see the sunset." She went, "What? Please come outside. It's pink, it's iridescent, it's absolutely stunning." And her sister opened the front door of her house, went out and went, "Kayla, it's just a sunset," and hung up. And Kayla was like, "I can't believe this. It's the most beautiful sunset." Took a few more pictures, drove home, went to her husband, Michael, and went, "Michael, you have to see this." Got her phone out, put her sunglasses on her head, started looking at the pictures, and she went, "Oh my goodness, it's just a sunset." And then she took her glasses off her head and looked, and she had rose-tinted glasses on, right? So mindset is like a pair of glasses. So if you have a mindset of the world is a dangerous place, what you go out and look at and see is the dangerous thing. So if we were to look around this room, there's cables to trip over, there's electricity, there's lights, there's all sorts of things that we could go, "Oh, it's really dangerous." If you take those mindset glasses off and you put the mindset of the world is a wonderful place, it's full of love, you look around this room and you see plants, daylight, other people, technology, things that bring us together. It's the same information that we're being hit with, but we process it completely differently based on what our mindset is. So when we're having a team meeting, we'll have mindset. We have, first thing in the morning, we have our morning huddle. Not only do we have kind of phrase of the day, but we also decide what's the mindset. And the mindset, we take it in turns to choose the mindset. And the mindset might be, the world is an affluent place, or patients are amazing. Simple things that we can remind each other when you maybe have had a tricky situation, or a challenging interaction with a patient. We can remind each other that, hey, patients are amazing. And so it helps us then form our team meetings because we've got a different mindset.
See, that's also very useful from what you were saying about the tone of your voice, because if you've just had an interaction with a difficult patient or something's not going well at home and you've come into work and your first patient, if you've not left that at the door, or if you've not left that with the last patient, that will come through in your tone of voice. So that's a great tip, that you go back to the mindset that you're supposed to be in and you consider the way that you speak.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this has all been really, really fascinating, and I'm sure we could talk for hours about this. Communication, quite in depth, obviously. But it's been great. So you think about your tone of voice, you consider the way that you speak, and considering a mindset for the day. I think that's fantastic advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.